This lesson is on converting different forms of linear equations. So we saw in the last video with graphing linear equations that when an equation is in slope-intercept form, it was very easy to graph. Now you can graph linear equations when they're in different forms, but one of the easiest ways to graph is to just get it in a form that you're familiar with and go from there. So let's talk about some different forms. We have point-slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where m is the slope and x1, y1 is the point given, thus the name point slope. And then standard form is ax plus by equals c. Basically in this form, x and y are on the same side. A is a positive number and A, B, and C are all integers. I guess I could say, actually, to go with the notes, positive is correct, but a positive integer is a natural number. So these forms, both of these forms can be converted to slope-intercept form by solving for y, which is what we'll be doing today. Before we get started, I want to kind of introduce you to these forms and what they look like. So let's write an equation of a line in point-slope form that passes through -1, 4 with a slope of -3/4. So the first thing is that it is in point-slope form. Let's write that form out so that we can substitute our information in. The point given, x1, y1, will go into these places, x1, y1. So this point will be subbed in, and the slope will be subbed in for m. So I'm actually going to rewrite these in pink so you can see where they go. And I'm going to sub them right in. So 4 goes in for y1, -3/4 goes in for m, and -1 goes in for x1. And then I'm going to rewrite the purple information like that. And really the only simplifying that you have to do when something is in point slope form is if there's a minus and negative anywhere, and there is right here. So we're going to simplify that. Leave this, make this a plus sign, and that is point slope form, which is so easy to write. It's my favorite form to use if you're writing equations, but we're going to extend that. We're going to use that to help us graph. Before we do that, we're going to write an equation of line in standard form that passes through this point with a slope of -4. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. And if we refer back up to here, basically what that means is x and y are on the same side. And we have some stipulations here that we're going to take care of in standard form. We cannot have fractions or decimals, and A has to be positive. So those are the things we have to pay attention to when we write standard form. I'm going to use these skills first and then put it in standard form. So I'm going to use this since I know how to do it. I'm going to plug in my information. I'm going to simplify if possible. There's no minus negatives, so I'm just going to leave it. But now I need to put it in standard form. To do that, I'm going to distribute -4 times x, -4 times 0. I'm going to continue up here. And then we're going to use our solving skills. I'm going to move x to be over here and -6 to be over here. So that means I'm going to have to add 4x and add 6. Added 4x, added 4x. And we get this. Now at this point we need to make sure that we've passed all of our stipulations. So it says for standard form, x and y have to be on the same side, no decimals or fractions, and a has to be positive. So it passes everything, and that means that's the answer. Where a is 4, b is 1, c is 6. Okay, let's go here. We're trying to graph these equations, and we could graph them in these forms. This is fine. We have a point and we have a slope. We have a point and we have a slope. So that would be fine. But for the sake of this lesson, I want to show you how to convert these equations and convert them into slope-intercept form, and then we already know how to graph in slope-intercept form, so we're just going to do that. That means we are going to distribute 1/3 x plus 1. Where did I get the 1? 1/3 times 3. The 3's divide and you end up with 1. And then I'm going to isolate y. And I end up with 1/3 x plus 6. This is slope-intercept form, where the slope is 1/3 and the intercept is 6, which remember is 0, 6. And I'll graph that. I start at my y-intercept. From there, I go up 1, run 3. Right there. And you can continue doing that pattern. Up 1 over 3, up 1 over 3. Or you could go down 1, left 3 to get this side. And that gives you a path that is your line. And if I check, this point is -3, 5. And if I check on my line, go to -3, up 5, that is a point on my line. So it checks out. So this line is y minus 5 equals 1/3 times x plus 3, or y equals 1/3 x plus 6. They're the same line. They just look a little different in equation form. It says state the x and y intercept. So the y-intercept is easy to tell because we found it from the equation. We already know it's 0, 6. We already plotted it. The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, but I can't really tell because my graph stops. But I do know that if it crosses the x-axis, that y is 0. So if I wanted to find that, let me use this. I know that y is 0, and then I can solve for x using my solving skills, and we get negative 18. So that's the reason why it wasn't on my graph. It's way over here at negative 18. Okay, next example. Same process, we're going to distribute first. Plus 8 because minus a negative is positive. Isolate y. And we get this line. Now remember that this line is the same as this line, it just looks a little different. And from here we can identify the slope and the y-intercept. Remember, we can write this as a fraction, and we can write this as a point. And then we plot it. 0, 2. From there we go down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Whoops, I got off a little bit. Down 2 over 1. There we go. Down 2 over 1. Or you can go up 2, left 1. And it follows the same pattern. And then draw your line. From here, we can easily see, my line's a little thick, but I think we can tell, the y-intercept and the x-intercept. I'm going to put black dots there. The y-intercept and the x-intercept. So it crosses the y-axis at 0, 2 and the x-axis at 1, 0. And remember, if you're unsure, if your graph is a little off, you can plug in 0 for y since it's 0. And we would subtract 2, divide by negative 2, and that's where that 1 comes from. So there's two ways to find an intercept. You can locate it on the graph, or you can find it algebraically. Last one on this page. Same process. We will get my purple back. Distribute y minus 2 equals negative x plus 1. Because of the minus a negative, it became positive. Isolate y, and we get negative x plus 3. From here we can see the slope and the y-intercept. That's negative 1, that's 3. Now take a second, pause the video, and rewrite the slope as a fraction and the y-intercept as a point. Pause it. Now see if you got it correct. Now pause it again and graph it yourself. And when you're done, unpause it. And it should look like point at 3, down 1 over 1. Or you could go up 1, left 1. And we have our line. From the graph, we can easily see the y-intercept and the x-intercept. y-intercept was 0, 3. We already found it. X-intercept is 3, 0. Remember, if you're unsure from your graph, then you can find it algebraically. Subtract 3, divide by -1, and that's where that 3 comes from. Super cool. Lots of cool stuff today to learn. And then here's some examples of standard form. Our goal is to still isolate y. So I still want to get this y by itself, which means that I'm going to have to move this away. So I am going to subtract it. Now notice that when I subtract it, I've written it off to the side because it is not like terms with 10. So I did that on purpose. You can write that 10 minus 3x or negative 3x plus 10. I like to put the x first because then that way it's in the mx plus b form. However, we're not there yet because of this 5. So I'm going to divide everything by 5 to keep it balanced. Simplify. I'm going to leave this as a fraction, but I am going to go ahead and divide that. That's slope-intercept form. We have m and b. So pause it, try to graph it, and then unpause it when you're done. You should have a point here at 2. From 2, you go down 1, 2, 3, run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could do another iteration if you wanted. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And draw your line. I got really close. There, I'm a little bit off. Now, I know I'm a little bit off because I didn't go through my point. So that means that when I go to find my x-intercept, I'm guessing this is going to be a little bit off. So I'm going to go ahead and find it using algebra. Yay, we love algebra. Okay, I can see that my y-intercept is clearly at 0, 2 from my equation. But I need to find my x-intercept because my graph is a little off. 0 equals -3/5 x plus 2. Now notice that it makes sense that I plugged in 0 for y because I'm solving for x. Subtract 2. Run out of room, but I have some extra paper down here. Math people are paper wasters. Just get used to it. And then I'm solving for x, so at this point you can multiply by the reciprocal. Do a different color. To divide to 1 on the right side. These 3's, these 5's, and the negatives. And then I'm going to multiply these. And it would have been hard to tell from the graph anyway. We got a fraction. So that's why it would have been a little bit hard. So we can write that point as 10/3 0. Or you could do a decimal 3 1/3 or 3.3 repeated would be fine. Okay, here's the next example. If you're watching this video, pause it, try to do it on your own, and when you're done, unpause it. Once you're done, you can check your solution with mine. We're isolating y, so we have to subtract x. Notice I did not join the x with the 17 because they are not like terms. Last step, divide by -3. let's rewind. Let's make this an 18 so that it divides evenly. You can't do that in your homework, but I made these notes, so I can do it. And we get 1/3 x plus 6. The 17 would have been okay. It just makes it really hard to graph when it's a decimal, so especially if you're doing it by hand. If you're using a calculator, it's fine, but that's why I changed that. And then here I got a third because negative over negative makes a positive, and then this will be a 1 right there, so that's where I got the 1/3. And then this divides to 6. So that gives us M and B, which means I start at 6, I go up 1 over 1, 2, 3, up 1 over 1, 2, 3, up 1 over 1, 2, 3. Or down 1, left 3, down 1, left 3, and so on. Actually, I'm going to keep going. Left 3. Nope. Run out of room. Okay. Looks like that. And you'll notice that I can find the y-intercept from the graph, but not the x-intercept. So I am going to have to use some algebra on this one. The y-intercept is 0, 6. The x-intercept, I'm going to have to use some algebra. We're going to solve. Subtract 6, divide by 1/3, or multiply by the reciprocal. And we get negative 18. Okay, next one. Go ahead and pause it, try it on your own. Unpause it when you're done. I am not going to change the numbers on this one. I'm sorry about the previous one. So we're going to isolate y by subtracting x, and then dividing everything by 2. Here, this is a -1, so that's -1/2. That's where I got that. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So this is M, this is B. When y is isolated, then you can clearly see slope-intercept. We can graph that starting at 1, and then go down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, or you can go up 1, left 2. Okay, I've talked about this in a previous video, and I've talked about it in this one, but let me show what I'm doing. In the first part, I was going down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, and then I switched and I went up 1, left 2. So let's look at that. Up 1, left 2. These are equivalent fractions because if we divided them, they equal the same number. So it's just moving that negative over the fraction bar. And that's okay. And then I can draw my line. Whoops, I got a little bit off. Okay. And luckily from this one, we can see the y-intercept and the x-intercept. This is the x-axis and the y-axis. So the x-intercept is 2, 0. And the y-intercept we found from the equation right here, and the graph right here, 0, 1. So in the x-intercept, the y value is 0 because it crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept, the x value is 0 because it crosses the y-axis. That's all there is for this lesson. If there's any questions, please let me know. You can email me or comment below. Thank you for watching.